Alright, today we are going over why you don't feel your glutes whenever we are doing a hip thrust. See if you are ready. Let's see it. Getting mind muscle connection and squeezing your glutes when you are standing is pretty easy because it is already in a hip extended position and that's exactly the function what it is trying to do. So it is more or less contracted anyway. Eyes are up here. But the main reason you don't feel it is your setup and execution. So let's go over the setup first. And the first one in the setup is your foot positioning. If it's too close, then it is going to be your quads what's overpowering the feeling. If it's too far out, so here, it is going to be a low of hamstring. Now, in my opinion, if you make any of these mistakes, then doing the hamstring version is probably the best out of the two because you get tons of glutes and yes, there is going to be some hamstrings as well, but it's still better than getting quads more. But what you want to do instead is sit really close to the bench or the box, whatever you are using, and notice where your knees are. So if it is here, that is where you're going to put your heels. And now, whenever you are coming up, it is going to be roughly vertical to the floor. So in this position, you still get some quads and your hamstrings are in an active insufficiency. So it is going to be mainly glutes. Now the only reason you want your legs to close 90 degrees because your hamstrings are crossing two joints. So it's doing two functions, but it is not strong doing both of them at the same time. So if you have your legs bent around 90 degrees and pushing your hip all the way up because it does knee flexion and hip extension, it can't do both at the same time. So it is almost over shortened, so it can't produce any more force here. So the last part of the lockout is only going to be glutes. And that is a key word, but we will get to that at the end. You can turn your feet in and out, and potentially if you are turning it out, then it is going to get the insertion closer to the origin or at least in a better line. But in my opinion, it is not going to break or make the exercise. So whatever you pick, it is still going to work. And now comes probably the most important part, is your stance. And I'm pretty sure you were told that anything wide is going to be more glutes, but it is going to be exactly the opposite. Now, if you are wide, then you are forcing hip abduction and extension at the same time, and those are two completely different functions. And your body is going to naturally decrease the amount of hip extension what you can do if your arms are abducted. So what you want to do instead is get a narrower stance. It doesn't have to be like super narrow, but just outside of your hip or maybe a hip width apart. And from there, it is going to be a much stronger position to do hip extension or just thrust your hip all the way up. And you are going to feel your glutes instantly. But this is not it. And this was the setup. And if it didn't fix your feelings, then it is going to be your execution was lacking. So let's go over that. With most people, whenever they are trying to execute the exercise, you can only see two major problems. And one is going to be arching the back. Your glutes are doing the exact opposite, so it is rounding your hip. So instead, try to tuck your chin, keep your ribcage down, and this is going to neutralize your upper back, what has nothing to do with the exercise, but at least right now, you can focus on either rounding your hip or keeping it neutral, just not arching. And whenever you are using heavy weight, you are probably going to keep it neutral because otherwise you're not going to move that. And this is the most important or the biggest mistake I ever seen, is not doing a full lockout. And this is exactly the part was the hardest, the most loaded one, and the one what you are trying to do anyway. This problem comes up whenever the weight is heavy or you are doing it anything in between 5 to 8 reps, which is fine, but just make sure that with every rep, instead of stopping here, you push it all the way up, even if you have to throw up with every rep you did. And then your glutes are going to explode 100% of the time. And honorable mention to the bench height, because most people pretty much overlook all of those what I just mentioned before, and they just say that it was the bench height, it is too high. But it is not that important. You can still do everything with the exercise. It is just either going to be a bit slanted or starting from a bit lower down, but you can still do a complete lockout. It is going to give you a different regional hypertrophy, but you don't even have to worry about anyway. So it is still going to blow up your glutes, unless it is excessively high. If it is excessively high, then you fucked up. Like, subscribe, watch this video next about glute training. For coaching, hit the link in the description. Talk to you soon.